This tutorial will cover the basics of workflows within the tailwag version of the Redtail CRM, as well as how to attach and assign workflow templates to contacts in your Redtail database. The first step in doing this process is to understand the location within your database of where your workflow templates are located. To do that, scroll up and click on the database username. Click on Manage Your Account. From here, we're going to click on Workflow Templates. And now we're going to have our master list and library of all of our workflow templates. You'll notice that the organization of workflows are organized and named based off of their function within the practice and organization. The first part of the workflow dictates the function of the workflow, such as whether it's for appointments, client service, account service, etc. The second part of the workflow specifies and dictates the specific task and details of that workflow, along with a description to the right, providing the user with more specific information that's applicable to that workflow. We also tell the user what the target date of this workflow will be when the template is assigned to a client record to document a task or procedure for that contact. For more information on target dates, please see our training video titled Target Dates Explained. Now, what we're going to do is we want to revisit the basic function and purpose of workflows before we dive into the details. What a workflow does is it tells who is responsible for doing what and when that task is supposed to be done. And to demonstrate this, let's click on an existing workflow and illustrate the different components of a workflow task. And so workflows, in a sense, are broken up into three basic components. We have workflow steps, we have task or tasks within the workflow step, and then with every step we have to have an outcome, and outcomes are simply if-then situations. So if we look at steps, steps are the order in which things need to be broken up. And think of workflows as a combination of a shopping list and a recipe. The individual steps that you see here are the recipe and how to take a process from start to finish. But the individual tasks within each step are, in a sense, the grocery list or shopping list that you need to understand. The reason we use that analogy is that you can have either 1 or 5 or 10 different tasks within a step, and the completion of the task within each step is not order dependent. For example, if there are multiple different users within your firm that are responsible for different tasks within a step, those tasks can be accomplished in any order, but we cannot advance the workflow and go to the next step until all of the tasks in that step have been completed. So this is kind of going back to that analogy. It doesn't matter which way and how you put the items from the shopping list into the cart at the supermarket, but we do know that in order to get the end result of that recipe, we need to follow each individual step on the recipe card. And again, outcomes simply tell if-then situations. So if this occurs, then this needs to occur. So for example, in this situation, we see that there are 3 events that can occur when we get to the point of verifying that funds have been received in the account. The funds can either be drafted incorrectly, correctly, and based off of the correctness, whether or not we are going to trade that account. So this simply tells the workflow what is going to be the next step in the process. An outcome can either regress, stay the same, or progress the workflow in the order in which that's going to be completed. And again, we'll see how that's demonstrated here when we actually attach this workflow to a client. So let's jump into a client example and show how we're going to attach this workflow, processing incoming funds into an account, and see how that works for Mary Investor. In order to attach a workflow template, what you're going to do is, in a sense, check this workflow out of the library and create a customized copy of that workflow in the actual client record. So we're going to click on Margaret Investor, and we're going to click on Active Workflows, and currently we see there are 0 active workflows. In order to attach a template, we're going to click on Add Workflow and create a new workflow. From here, we're going to select the template that we want to use. In this sense, the client is asking us to process funds and pull those funds into an account. We can always customize this so that we know a little bit more of the details that are surrounding this request. So processing incoming funds into, we could say, joint account. We're going to select an owner, which is going to be the advisor that this client is assigned to. We're going to select a category. This section may be more robust depending on how you have customized your Redtail database. Target date, as we see here, is the start of the workflow. So if that is today, we're going to select today's date and we're going to create workflow. Now what the system does is it automatically takes the template that we had in our library from the previous screen and attaches that workflow template to the specific client. And now if we actually drill into this workflow one layer deep, we're going to see that we see who, in this case I'm going to assign it to me, who needs to do what, when it needs to be due, and for which client. And so what I'm going to do now is I'm going to go ahead and complete my steps. Now the emphasis on why we want to complete steps is because it gives us the opportunity to document what is occurring and what is happening in the process of working with this client. So what we can document here as an advisor is that we have documented the request from the client. So we can say that the client requested us to pull $10,000 into the joint account. And now what we're going to do is we're going to complete this step, and we'll notice that the workflow automatically advances to the next step. Now I, as the advisor, can either leave it as the default assigned to, which we can modify over here in the templates. We can always make sure that we have our modified assigned to. If there's someone in the firm that's always responsible for doing a certain task within a workflow over and over and over again, we're going to go ahead and make sure that that person is always assigned to that task. In this situation specifically, we didn't have anything assigned, so now as an advisor I can go in here and assign this specific task to someone in my firm that may do this on my behalf. So maybe my advisor assistant is going to be responsible for doing this, so they're going to get an email notification that they need to pull the funds from the client's bank account. We are supposed to do that today, and again it's for Margaret Investor. So we're going to advance this and pretend like everything has been done. We're going to complete the process, and we can say that fund transfer initiated. And now again, we're verifying not only that we're doing our job, but that behind the scenes and different partners and providers that we work with in our firm are also doing their job, again, because all things are done here with the intention of providing a great client experience. So what's going to happen here, if you remember earlier we talked about the different outcomes that can occur, 3 things may occur. So what happens if something didn't happen correctly? The important point of why we want to recycle the step, because you'll see if we complete the step, the actual workflow just recycles and stays on the step that we're working on. But this gives us the opportunity to document what went wrong, such as bank account incorrectly listed on the account, new information submitted, process in 2 days. Now what we're going to do is we're going to complete this step. We'll notice that the workflow stayed on this step, but now what I can do is I can simply just modify the due date to happen in 2 days. Again, this would all be defaulted back if we had this assigned in our database in our templates. But what we'll notice here is that we see step notes on each individual step, and we also have a list of notes up here. And the important thing, and what we recommend as a best practice when it comes to workflow management, is to make sure that you're documenting all of the steps and notes that occur within a workflow in the actual workflow and nowhere else in Redtail. The benefit of doing it this way is that not only does the advisor in the very beginning, but everybody else that is involved in the workflow in the steps henceforth will know what is relevant, what is applicable, and what's occurred previously all in one place. So it really saves the advisor and the team in the practice from having to click around in multiple different areas of Redtail, because we want people to be as efficient with their time as possible. And so now we're going to go ahead and we see that we've changed the information, and what we're going to do is advance the workflow forward again. And we're going to then trade the account, and you can see how we progress through the workflow. And the last but not least, we emphasize client interaction, contacting the client, making sure that everything is beginning and ending with client interaction and an ability to not only document that we're taking instructions correctly, but follow up with the client to let them know that we've honored our commitment to them and have done exactly what they've told us to do. So this is how we not only understand how workflows work, but also how to attach them to a specific client. Thank you for watching this training video on the basics of workflows, as well as attaching a template to a client.